Hi, I'm Zuza and today I'm going to be cooking a recipe from my new cookbook, Pierogi. And the first recipe I'm making is Janina's sweet kasha and twaróg pierogi. Now, this recipe was procured for me by my friend who lives in Paris, Magdalena, who got the recipe from her grandmother in Lublin, in the southeast of the country, near the Ukrainian border. And when I traveled to that part of the country, I ate a lot of gryczaki, which are pierogi stuffed with toasted buckwheat oats, kasha, but I never tried sweet ones. So this was a complete novelty to me and they've become a firm favorite in the family. They're really delicious. The first thing we need to do is cook the kasha gryczana. Here we have the cooked kasha, which I cooked Janina style, of course, because it's her recipe, with a knob of butter. That's going to be for the filling. We're going to make the dough first. I'm doing half the recipe, so we need 150 grams of plain all-purpose flour, 1 egg yolk. The actual recipe requires 1 egg yolk, but I'm not going to obviously split an egg yolk up, so we'll probably just use less water. Some cold pressed rapeseed oil, a bit of salt, and some boiling water from a pre-boiled kettle. We're going to measure that out. I'm expecting to use about 80 milliliters, but it kind of depends on various factors, so we're going to play it by ear. So in the Janina style of dough making, we pour some of the water in so that the flour is half wet, half dry. Everyone's got their own special dough technique, so I love learning new ones, and yeah, this is the Janina one. So I'm just putting a splash of water in there. So the water is, it's obviously quite hot, so I'm going to leave it a second so that the egg doesn't cook. A decent amount of salt. About half a tablespoon of the oil. Just going to keep mixing that in with one hand. Okay, it's warm, it's not hot anymore, so I can add the egg yolk in. I'll show you the consistency. So this is what it's like. It's still very dry, but that's fine. I'm bringing it together. I'm gonna add some more water in a minute. And now a splash more water. I think I've added tiny bit too much actually. It's still not 80 milliliters, but it's already feeling quite wet. I'm going to keep working with it and then add a bit more flour. Pinch of flour. Always have a little pile of flour when you're making dough at the ready. Bit more flour because it's sticky. Okay, the more you need it, the less sticky it should get. So it was extremely sticky. I've literally added 2 sprinkles of flour, as you saw, and been kneading it, and it's already almost perfect. It just needs a bit more kneading. I just washed my hands. We've turned the dough out onto a lightly floured surface now, and it's just a matter of kneading it for about 5 minutes. The flour I am using is it's just plain all-purpose flour, but it is organic because I do like to use the best quality I can. However, you really can make pierogi out of any flour. It doesn't have to be anything fancy at all. This is proper peasant food, and this is the thing that, you know, everyone made even during communist times. So whatever kind of flour you can get, that's what you make pierogi out of. Sprinkle more flour. So half the recipe will feed probably 2 people. I've been kneading for about 5 or 6 minutes now. So I'm gonna wrap the dough ball up in some eco cling film, which I have to admit is it's got a little bit of a way to go before it's actually easy and convenient to use. But there you go. You could wrap it up in a damp tea towel as well. And I'm going to leave it here at room temperature because it's not particularly warm today. Some people like to put it in the fridge for 20 minutes. I've learned that some people don't rest the dough at all. So I would recommend that you do it for at least 15 minutes. While the dough is resting, I'm going to make the filling. I'm also going to bring a large pan of water to the boil. Teaspoon of salt and bring that to the boil. Now we make the filling. So I have got about 200 grams of tvarog, which is called farmer's cheese, I believe, in America. I'm mashing it with a fork. I'm not going to put yolk in there because I can't get half a yolk. So I'm just going to put I would say a large teaspoon of soured cream. A tablespoon of sugar. I'm actually using coconut sugar today. Even though it was already boiling, it still takes a moment, so I'm just going to stick a lid on there, not to waste any energy. And we're just mashing the sugar with the tvarog and the soured cream, and then adding the buttery kasha in there too. Some salt, and we have our filling. Now before we roll our dough out, make sure the surface is well floured. Rolling the dough out as thin as we can get it. Whenever we flip it onto the other side, we add a little bit of flour underneath. It doesn't need to be transparent or anything like that, but we do want it pretty thin. Right, the water's boiling now, so I'm going to turn it right down. I'm using a little cup to cut circles out of the dough, a few at a time. And today I'm going to show you the simplest pinching techniques. In my second pierogi video, I will show you the more fancy ones. We have a teaspoon of filling in the middle of our circle. You pinch it in the middle and just keep pinching all the way down using your pointing finger and your thumb. Pinch very hard. There we go. That's the simplest one. If you have not very strong fingers, for example, or just want, to be sure that the filling is sealed, then we have our second easy technique. We start off with the classic one, but we don't pinch as hard because we're going to do something else. And now we follow it with a fork all the way along the edges. You need to do this on a surface though. This is really good also if you have kids, because my grandma used to always have to repeat the pinch after I'd done it, because obviously kids' fingers aren't that strong. And there's the fork technique. So I'm gonna make sure it's bubbling and then stick our first batch in there. Now I'm going to also melt some butter in a frying pan. Once they float to the top, we give them an extra minute. If they were meat, we'd probably give them a little longer. And then we're going to fish them out and straight into the lovely butter bath. You can hear the melted butter sizzling. You can roll all the offcuts out again. There we go, they've all floated to the top. Just going to shake them a little bit. Remove excess water and into the butter. And the smell in here is really lovely. So, next batch. So you want to fry them for about a minute each side perhaps. Nice and crispy. Shake, shake, shake into the butter. And these ones are ready. So we're going to serve our pierogi with some soft brown sugar on top. I'm using coconut sugar and some sour cream.